Hi, it's Dr. Jim Dittmar again, and during this segment we're going to be talking about transformational and transactional leadership, a leadership model that's important to the MSLS program. It's a foundational, and it's an idea, it's a model that will carry itself throughout the program. So it's important to have an understanding, and you have a reading, at least one reading in this, in our book Leadership by Northouse. Northouse is a text that we use in the program, not only in the history and theory course, but throughout the program at different points. It's a survey type of book that is loaded with information about all sorts of leadership theory. Today we're going to talk about transformational, transactional leadership. So what is that? Well, Bernard Bass is the author that we refer to most often in understanding what this model is. He was the one that actually developed the phrases transforming or transformational leadership. And he borrowed from another person named James McGregor Barnes, who had originally talked about transforming and transactional leadership. And Bernard Bass developed it further into transformational, transactional, and something that he called the full range or the full continuum of leadership, which I'll get into in a moment. So what is it? Well, first of all, transactional leadership is really what it sounds like, a transaction. When you think of a transaction, you might think of buying and selling things, going into a store, going into a bank. I give you money as a teller, and you deposit it, and you give me back a deposit slip. That's a transaction. And transactional leadership is similar to that in that it's a negotiated, maybe perhaps not negotiated arrangement that you have. So the transactional leadership is, as leader, I say, if you do this, I will give you that. And it's, something that happens all the time. I will work for you, yes, and I will pay you this salary. Okay, that's a transaction. And so we get involved in a lot of that. We get involved in transactional leadership a great deal. But Bass talked about transformational leadership. And transformational leadership is on the opposite end of what he called the full range of leadership, a continuum. I want you to think about it as a continuum, not necessarily an either or. That's an important idea. It's not that you're transactional or you're transformational, and that's it, one or the other, but rather, if you think of a continuum, starting with transactional on one end and moving to transformational on the other, then there's a sense in which, at times, based on situation, you may move back and forth across this. So what's transformational leadership all about? And let me read a statement to you from the Northouse book, and it's on page 161. And this is just something that sets the stage for this. As its name implies, transformational leadership is a process that changes and transforms people. It is concerned with emotions, values, ethics, standards, and long-term goals. And it includes assessing followers' motives, satisfying needs, and treating them as full human beings. Who wouldn't want to be led by a person who is concerned about those things and is trying to create those capacities in an organization? So what are the particulars about transformational leadership? And Bass identified 4 components. If you think about them as the 4 I's, the letter I, each one starts with the letter I. And for Bass, the transformational leader is someone who expresses these 4 I's. The first one is idealized influence. Idealized influence is this notion that you behave in such a way as a leader that other people want to emulate that. The phrase that was very popular some years ago, I want to be like Mike, is idealized influence. It was the influence, the impact that Michael Jordan had on people was such that kids aspire to be just like Mike. And so you have a person, a leader in an organization, situation that really reflects behaviors and attitudes and perspectives that you resonate with tremendously and you see modeled by this person. And so you you aspire, you say, that's the kind of leader that I want to be someday. The second I is something that is called inspirational motivation. Now, in the first case, you might think this going back to idealized influence is someone who has charisma and someone who has kind of that influence. Inspirational motivation has to do more with an individual who can inspire certain behaviors, certain actions. It's somebody who comes along and says, I have a vision, or we have a vision as an organization that is just, tremendous. And we're going to achieve that vision, and this is how we're going to do it. It's sort of passionate inspiration and motivational kind of speech and behavior. That's inspirational motivation, and that's what the transformational leader does as well. So the transformational leader provides idealized influence. Number one, that's sort of modeling that other people want to aspire to, but also in the second I, inspirational motivation, the leader inspires, the leader motivates, the leader is passionate about what the organization is about. And because of that, other people say, yes, I want to be part of that vision. Now, the third factor is called intellectual stimulation. And this is a behavior within transformational leadership in which the leader recognizes the fact that people have something to say. People have talents and abilities and knowledge and can contribute to the achievement of the goals of the organization. And so the leader in that case comes into a room and doesn't say, this is what we're going to do, but says, what do you think we should do in this case? Let's think outside the box. I want you folks to get creative. I want you to come up with ideas. Maybe we need to we'll have to take a risk, but it's going to be a calculated risk. But let's do it. And so you get a sense of being empowered, and you feel like, wow, I really have a stake in this organization. I have something to say. My opinion is valued. That's what the transformational leader does when he or she considers the intellect, the abilities, the knowledge of the people that they work with. So intellectual stimulation is the third factor. The final of the four I's, the fourth factor, is individualized consideration. Now, in this case, the leader is really interested in knowing the individual. What kind of skills, what kind of talents, what kind of assets does the person bring to the table, so to speak, and putting people in a position within the organization where they can succeed, utilizing these strengths. It also refers to knowing what's going on in the life of the employee, where there may be issues or problems or things that are going on that are affecting performance. It's just this idea of acting like a coach, where the leader is very aware of what's going on with the person and tries to, the best possible way, be sensitive to those, support them, and help work through them. So these are the four I's. These are the fundamental components of transformational leadership. Again, they are idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. If you think about the four I's, you won't forget what transformational leadership means. Now, also on the end of the continuum, way, if you can go furthest away from transactional and transformational, is this idea of laissez-faire leadership, which Bass and others refer to, and that means someone who is just completely hands-off, doesn't do anything really in terms of interacting and working with people. We don't want to be laissez-faire leaders, that's for sure. But let me say this, that transactional leadership should not necessarily be seen as a bad thing. There are times when we need transactional leadership. If the building's on fire and I say, get out of here right now and listen to me and do it, and as a result, your life will be saved. That's transactional leadership, and you need that. You don't need transformational. You don't need to consider each one's needs as they're running by you to get out the door. It's let's get outside right away. And so think of it again as this continuum. Bass always wanting us to become more transformational and understand that more and become more of that kind of leader, but also knowing that there may be situations in which we have to go back and forth on the continuum and become more transactional based on the situation. So an important leadership model that you can read about in Northhouse, and it's something that's fundamental, as I said, in understanding other leadership models to come. Thanks very much.